For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. You're listening to our latest episode for the week of October 7th, 2024. Today, I'm joined by environment and climate change reporter Adam Wagner here at the NNO. What we're going to talk about is what everybody is when talking about what's been going on, the major news for the past week, and that is the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, or tropical storm, when it got here, and the damage and everything in North Carolina, of course, beyond North Carolina too. But since this is a North Carolina newspaper, that's what we're talking about and focusing on. Adam, just to start with Helene's arrival here. Why was it so strong? Why is this what we're dealing with now? Like, what's the setup for it?
Sure, yeah, thanks. So last week there was this low pressure front that was just kind of hanging out over Tennessee, and it basically kept a bunch of weather to the east of it, like over western North Carolina, and that caused this heavy rainfall. So there was a jet stream kind of coming up from the Gulf, which is hot, which means that there's more water vapor. This is really scientific, but more water vapor, then it rains a lot in western North Carolina. And then kind of behind that came Helene, which was supercharged by this really warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. So there was like this already serious rain event before Helene came in and brought more kind of historic rain to some parts of western North Carolina and caused the catastrophe that we all kind of watched unfold over the weekend.
If people aren't familiar with really the geography of the western part of the state, obviously if you lived in a house that's on a river, I mean, flooding is a threat, daily basis. This was beyond just houses that are already sitting on the river. So what was the mudslides is what we've seen. So what's the terrain like? Is this all mountain, some mountain, mostly if you're along some sort of water source? Like how did it impact and the immediate changes in those areas?
Yeah, we saw flooding. Helene is the new flood of record in western North Carolina. Before this, it had been a flood in 1916, so a flood that was no or very, very few people that are living were alive during the last one, kind of like this. And places flooded that people never thought could flood. There's been some coverage this week about the idea of Asheville as being a climate haven and western North Carolina being kind of climate haven because it's good elevation, not near a coast. But I think that Helene brings across the idea that, there's threats from climate change kind of everywhere.
How does climate change play into this?
So it was that supercharged water in the Gulf of Mexico that strengthened Helene, and also sort of when that Gulf Stream happened, there was water kind of basically chugging out of the Gulf of Mexico into western North Carolina, very similar to sort of what we saw in Carolina Beach last month with the giant rainfall there.
So we're recording this late on Thursday. People will be listening to it Monday or somewhat the beginning of the week. So obviously there's more information that comes out every day, every hours, and we're really just kind of at the beginning of this, really just like it's still in the assessment time, the rescue time. There's a push for relief already, but the relief doesn't always seem to be getting there. Like, where do you see things as they stand as of, Thursday evening here?
Yeah, I think that we're still sort of very much in the thick of it. I think that there's still hundreds of thousands of people without power. There's a lot of water treatment plants in western North Carolina that are damaged, some of them most likely catastrophically. I don't think the state or even local officials sometimes know at this point. I think search and rescue operations are still underway right now, so there's still people that are stranded in certain places. And the entire kind of basic infrastructure of modern life being devastated by this storm for going on a week, likely longer in Northern North Carolina, has really, I think, been the most shocking thing. We saw the cell phone network go down for like a quarter of the state this week. It's hard to comprehend.
It was interesting to see that photograph. I can't think of who shot it. That it was where they had a town meeting and it's somebody standing on a picnic table and everyone gathered around, and like that's the communication you use. Communication people have used for, the history of time, where you just talk to each other and share information that way when the technology isn't working.
Yeah, I think that was from. I think Ethan Fisher took that. He was a meteorology person out west. So,
what do you think the biggest threats are that are still out there?
I think that anytime you have people cut off from food and water, it's really alarming. I think also it's hard to kind of wrap your head around the future of some of these places right now, especially the places where like there isn't a water treatment system for the foreseeable future.
How long you said there's a flood in the 60s, but we're looking at
1916.
16. I thought it was thinking 1916
Yeah.
and the 60s. So, I mean, daily life was a bit different then, but when you think about how it's not just the digging out, it's the rebuilding. As people are listening to this, there is a one-day General Assembly session this week. It's Wednesday. Before the storm, there had been talk of maybe nothing would happen that day. Maybe they'd have a veto override. It's kind of just these few days here and there that Speaker Moore and Senate Leader Berger scheduled until this week-long session they're going to have in November. Then they'll have another few days in December too. So this week on Wednesday, it was kind of just supposed to be a one-off. But there's so many calls already to do something, even as everyone's still figuring out what to do. And it seems like the federal money is going to be coming down. Maybe not. Some, maybe not as much as of what they need. But the superintendent of public instruction, Catherine Truitt, made her case for what the school systems, the K-12 school systems already need. And some of it are things, it's logistics. It's she's asked for $16 million just to fund school nutrition staff deemed employed for scheduled instructional days that they missed, because, these are hourly workers, to make sure that they got paid, and if it obviously wasn't their call on not being able to work. $150 million, Superintendent Truitt is asking, that would be used for repairs and renovations, school nutrition, equipment, supplies, and technology loss, not covered by insurance. That actually seems like kind of a low number to me. Frankly, if you think about how much if school buildings and other things are total losses, and just kind of the way insurance works in general. And then some policy things that she's asking about: school calendar flexibility. Does, no school mean that everyone's going to school until July? That sort of thing. Some bonuses, like the change in the impacted bonuses for principals, hold harmless, other for staff, that sort of thing. The UNC system is, definitely going to have an ask. Don't know theirs yet. So I feel like there's going to be a lot that people are going to be requesting.
I can't imagine it's all going to be done in that one-day session. I mean, there's going to be hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars of state money going to this recovery. And with us sitting here Thursday, still in the kind of search and rescue stage, there's just no way that there's going to be kind of a clear eye on what people need. So I expect that'll be later this fall and probably years into the future.
So they could do a special session still like that. That's an easy thing for them to do, or extend the session days, change adjournment resolutions, and knowing exactly what the money is. Kind of with the COVID relief, they looked at how much money was coming from the feds and then figuring out what the state needed. But there's no question that people want their state government to do something now, whatever it is. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the federal government, because Adam was at President Biden's visit and his briefing here with Governor Cooper. We'll be right back.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
So good, so good, so good.
New spring arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Rag & Bone, Marc Jacobs, Free People, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Dawn Vaughan with the News and Observer, here with my colleague Adam Wagner, who is our environment and climate change reporter. The first half of the show, we were talking about Helene, not really even aftermath yet. It's still ongoing. And some of the state response. Let's talk about the federal response and what that means for what money might be coming, what President Biden said when he was here. So you were at that briefing, or part of the briefing that Biden had with Governor Cooper?
Yeah, so that Wednesday, the president came to Raleigh after flying over Western North Carolina. He brought some members of the cabinet with him. And while he was here, he announced that the federal government would pay for debris removal for the next 6 months. That's a big deal because there's just a lot of stuff that's kind of around after hurricane. I mean, we've seen the kind of staggering pictures of Chimney Rock and downstream of it with all of that debris. I mean, that all needs to go somewhere. So having that taken off of the state is pretty significant relief. And then he also announced Wednesday that there are going to be 1,000 troops from Fort Liberty that'll be involved in the response. And that was something that I think a lot of people were starting to wonder about, because we have such a significant military presence here, that why wasn't that being used in the response, especially when, the military is kind of the expert at going to a place where there's no
anything.
Yeah, and it's
no infrastructure. Yeah,
and I mean, I was talking to someone this week and talking about maybe trying to get out west, and they kind of warned me, like, look, it's pioneer world out there. I mean, you kind of got to be ready for it. That seems to call for military to go. So
yeah, and the Army's always. Just from my pro-Army bias, the Army is always ready to go. And the joke is that they use rocks for pillows, but it's not really a joke. They actually will, or no pillow at all. So that's interesting about the debris. And it's not just trees and buildings. Like, there are probably people who died under this somehow. Yeah,
I mean, there's certainly going to be a recovery, pretty grim recovery effort. Mm-hmm. I think the president said 70 yesterday. I think that the number I saw from the state was 60. It's Thursday afternoon, so I think it's pretty likely that's going to continue to go up. It seems to have gone up pretty consistently, unfortunately. But there's also just, there's a lot of, chemicals and sewage and stuff and floodwater that's all around that debris that needs to go somewhere. So that's going to be a Herculean effort.
How do you clean that up?
You got to get it in a landfill somehow. It's not easy.
And I mean, the harder thing about this, right, is that the roads in and out are, if anyone who's been to the mountains, lived in the mountains, it's a lot of these switchback roads and hollers and everything. Like, as far as like people getting in it, we had our colleague Virginia Bridges had talked to a man who his fiance was missing. He talked about the night of the storm that they drove up the mountain and down the mountain and couldn't leave, and then went back to deal with it. So that's different, right, than if this was an area, if we're talking about like the Piedmont or something where it's flat land flooded.
Yeah, so we're talking about a lot of transportation infrastructure that's roads, bridges, things like that have been catastrophically damaged. I think we're all seeing the picture. You've seen the picture of I-40 near Pigeon Forge, where the road is just gone off the side of the mountain. And it's going to be, I've heard the DOT Secretary, Joe Hopkins, say months and months, but I think months and months would be a good outcome there for rebuilding that. Our colleague Richard Stradling has done a lot of reporting on that already. So, but it's not just interstates, it's places where there's one way in, one way out, kind of smaller roads that need to be repaired too. It's really tough terrain. And it's not just in eastern North Carolina. When the water comes down, then you're good, basically. And that's just not going to be the case for this response.
So we're looking at years, I mean, several years.
I mean, we still have people from Hurricane Florence that haven't made it back to their house, and that was 6 years ago. So, I mean, that was a big storm. That was a big response.
Yeah.
This, just sitting here having covered Matthew and Florence, this feels kind of thornier to deal with from the outset.
What are the water problems that you're thinking about, of things that need to be solved, move immediately and in the future?
So one of them is getting water. I mean, I'm thinking about drinking water here. When we say water. Getting drinking water to places that are still cut off, or to people who don't want to leave, who want to try to recover in place, which it sounds like is going to be a priority of the state. I asked the governor and Will Ray, the emergency management director, this week about that, and Will Ray said that they know that people recover better in their communities. So it sounds like if people want to stay, they're going to try to make every effort to have them stay, which in a lot of cases is going to mean standing up an effort to bring drinking water in, kind of a lot, either over the roads or flying it in until whatever water treatment structure is there, infrastructure can be repaired.
What are you seeing that's coming in? Because there's people wanting to help or saying that they're being turned away. Is it the avenue of how to get things to people and how to get that water in?
I understand the frustration there. I think everyone wants to do something, and I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of reporting right now on this, so I'm not sure what's going on with that situation. But it seems there's a lot of planes in the air over Western North Carolina right now. There's a lot of helicopters. There's a lot of people that want to do something, and I think are feeling kind of almost like pent up at the scale of this thing, and are clearly getting frustrated when their effort isn't, they see it as not being, I don't know, accepted, appreciated.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the answer to that is right now.
All right. Well, there'll be lots more to talk about, Helene, in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Let's end this with our picks for Headliner of the Week, which obviously are about Helene, because that's really just been the dominant news in North Carolina. Adam, what's your headliner?
Yeah, so mine is the quartz in Spruce Pine, which our colleague Brian Gordon has done some reporting on this super pure quartz there before. That's like, there's 2 mines that do it, and it's needed for solar panels, for semiconductors, and both of those mines seem to have suffered pretty serious damage. So the world's quartz supply looks like it could be in trouble right now.
I learned a lot from that story. It's always fun as part of the reason we like our jobs is we get paid to learn and tell people about it. But learning from Brian Gordon's story, honestly, like what my knowledge of Spruce Pine in the past had been that our NNO style of lawmakers is to say the exact town or city they live in, not just the county. So it's always Senator Ralph Heiss, a Spruce Pine Republican. Sure. He's one of the top budget writers, so we talk about Heiss a lot. Now I know a lot more about Spruce Pine and their district.
Key asset, yeah.
Yes, and the key asset of the quartz. My headliner, also of course related to the storm, are the helpers. Everybody knows, I think by now, that that Mr. Rogers would say in times of crisis, and always look for the helpers, and you can always find helpers. And it's pretty clear that there's some logistical issues that need to be worked out with all the people that want to help. But I think it's really encouraging to see that everybody wants to do something, even down to like the supply drives that are happening at schools, businesses saying we'll send money to this, or just everything beyond just the governmental response as far as people wanting to help. not just now, but next week, next month, and like we talked about, like it's gonna be a long road ahead on this. So
definitely.
All right, I'd like to thank Adam Wagner, our environment reporter, for joining me. I'm Dawn Vaughan for the News and Observer. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.